Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse Podcast. I'm Josh Modell. Today's episode features a pair of guys who've been making records for a long time and still manage to keep things not just interesting, but awesome. McCaughan and Eric D. Johnson. Now, Mac is a co-founder of legendary indie label Merge Records, as well as the singer and guitarist for the band Superchunk, which has been making great records for about 35 years now. Though they did take a bit of a break in the early aughts, which Mac mentions in this chat. Since reigniting around 2010, Superchunk has released 5 solid records that both reflect their maturity and bring the punk rock energy. The latest just came out, and it's called Songs in the Key of Yikes. It's their first with new drummer Laura King, and you can catch Superchunk this weekend at Riot Fest in Chicago, and then on a West Coast tour that starts October 9th at Pappy and Harriet's in the California desert. Check out a little bit of Is It Making You Feel Something from Songs in the Key of Yikes right here.
Now is it making you feel something?
The other half of today's chat is Eric D. Johnson, who's both one-third of Bonnie Light Horseman and the only constant member of Fruit Bats, the name under which he's been recording his smart, often gentle songs since around 2001. The newest Fruit Bats record, Baby Man, just came out on Merge, and it's an absolutely stripped-to-the-bone affair, with Johnson's voice even more front and center than usual. He lays it all out there, and it's easy to get sucked in by his words and lovely melodies. He'll be touring all over in October, doing it an Evening with Fruit Bats style. Check out a little bit of Let You People Down, a song that comes up in this conversation, right here.
Also days that I've wished that I ceased to exist, but I'd never go and say those words aloud, because I never want to let you people down.
In this easygoing chat, Eric and Mac talk about their long histories, from Eric's time in the Shins and Rowboat to Superchunk's not-that-fun stint opening for Teenage Fanclub. They also use some baseball analogies to talk about sequencing an album, and they commiserate about being dudes with unusually high singing voices. Enjoy.
So it's early. You on the West Coast right now?
Yeah, it's early, but I'm kind of an early riser.
Do you automatically, your brain wakes up in the morning and then you're just like, here I am?
That's going to dovetail into a question I had for you too. So let's start there. Cause yeah, it's like a motor mind. I had this guy who played keyboard in Fruit Bats like 10 years ago. He and I would always be roommates on tour because you like pick your good roommate, you know?
Yeah.
He was the guy that didn't snore, and me too. So we were like the quiet ones,
Amazing.
But he was always like, you're like a firefighter. Like that I would get up in the morning on tour and he'd be like, you're like awake and ready to like put out a fire or something, you know, put out the proverbial indie rock fire.
Right.
It's almost like morning insomnia, like where once I'm up in the morning, I'm operating at 100%.
That's my problem too. If I wake up, whether it's 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or let's say I'm actually have my alarm set for 8 a.m., it's hard to go back to sleep.
Yeah. I was thinking about that with both of us, where I was like, and I was just listening to the latest Superchunk record, because we're like, we both put records out close to each other.
Yeah.
In that we have divergence in our sound and vibe of our bands, but one thing we both have is we both sing high and loud, and tunefully.
I try. You achieve that. I try to
totally achieve that. Are you kidding? No, like I think we both are like we sing tuneful, high and hard. And I know you sort of, but not super well. But I think we're probably both like workaholics too. Like I think we're both high functioning people that do a lot of things.
I think I went for a long time without realizing that my voice was really high. I was just like, I'm just like singing or whatever. And then like once we started making records and stuff and people started commenting on it, and I was like, oh, wow, it's like, it is really high. You know, like I got compared to like someone good, like Mitch Easter or someone like that, you know? And I was like, wow, I never thought of my voice as being like kind of a high voice, and then obviously got some less flattering reviews. The one that Jim Wilbur reminds me of is my comparison to me sounding like a burning chimp. But I have thought about it in relation to you, because I've thought like, oh, like, okay, I'm not the only one with a high voice. Like Eric from Fruit Bats has a high voice, like a very high voice. And it's so beautiful and clear. And, you know, listening to Baby Man, the new Fruit Bats record, obviously it's front and center because it's such a stripped down album. And I was wondering if you ever had anxiety about, because like if you listen to our first 3 records, like the vocals are so buried, you know, even including Foolish, the first 4 records, the vocals are like pretty buried. And that was purely just like, I don't want to hear that. I just want to hear the guitars. And if you can hear like a melody from the vocals, that's great. But like, you don't need to hear the lyrics. That was like insecurity about my singing, you know?
I think that era, there wasn't a premium on vocals or lyrics in indie rock at the time. I had this like kind of louder indie rock band before Fruit Bats. We definitely would bury the vocals, but
What was that band called?
it was called Rowboat.
That is a really good name.
I've gone back and listened to it, and it's actually kind of good. Like, it's not even, we're not going to get like the Numero reissue going of it or anything like that.
You never know. You never know.
I definitely had Superchunk as an influence, and I had a sort of melange of indie rock influences, but I was also really into like Uncle Tupelo and sort of like folkier stuff. So it would almost be like Wednesday or something now. And I'm not to say like, oh, I'm ahead of my time, but it's like more that stew of things is happening now where it's like Wilco, but also Dinosaur Jr. or whatever.
Yeah,
iRobot was kind of like that, but also mixed with like, we had a bass player that was very into like Peter Hook and stuff.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. He was into like My Bloody Valentine and stuff like that. So it was a schizophrenic indie band with 4 people with divergent interests. But
what years is iRobot active?
I think we had our first like jam in like 95, but I was such a slow starter. I don't even think we played a show until 97 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Such
yeah.
restraint. Such restraint.
I mean, that was like Fruit Bats as a project too, was like, it took me like 4 years to play a show. So
That's so funny because that's like the opposite of my impulse. Again, not that it's a good one, but you know, like I would be in bands that had like 4 songs. I'd be like, let's play a party. Just, you know, feeling like anxious to make something happen kind of thing.
I would tell any young person now, like, do things before you're ready. In some way, and in some ways I did do things before I was ready, but my whole thing was joining Caliphone, which was like,
Great band.
And totally like, and actually iRobot was very influenced by Red Meat too, who I hadn't even met at the time. But like, I was like a Deadhead classic rock fan but I didn't know how to make that kind of music. That seemed like improbable music. And then indie rock changed my life because I was like, oh, I could do that. And Red Meat, I was like, oh, they were kind of like weird hippies from Chicago. But making sludgy, strange.
Hard to define that band.
Yeah. And then like in the most improbable scenario, I like joined essentially like the sort of Caliphone 1.0 was like right after Red Meat.
Right. No, that's awesome. Well, back to the vocals idea. So like,
yes,
you're saying that you might have buried vocals, but it was more just because like that was the sound at the time, which to me also like if people would say, well, the vocals are so buried. I'm like, have you listened to Husker Du? You know, like, have you listened to the bands that I like? Like their vocals are not loud. You know what I mean? Whereas like now I think I'm fully just making the vocals way louder than I ever would have then. But, you know, when you make a record like the new Fruit Bats record, again, there's no hiding. Like is it the most stripped down thing you've ever done?
Oh, by far. Yeah. And I probably could have made it sort of lo-fi and it still would have been vocals forward because there's not like a lot there. You can do that. But then I used Tom Monahan to produce it, who's like my kind of mentor / producing partner, whatever, who is able to, he's like a kind of a sonic genius in some ways. So it's not lo-fi, you know, like.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, like to me, that requires restraint to be making it in a proper place and making it sound good. And it's not lo-fi, but resist the urge to just like, well, we could just add just a little drums on this one, or just like a little keyboards on this one. It's like any song you're writing, even if you're just writing it on piano or guitar by yourself, like you're hearing other things that could be happening that would sound good.
Oh yeah.
So the decisions to not put stuff on a record is super, it's hard for me. So I admire it when I hear it. And when you can do it for the whole record, not just like a song in the middle of the record or whatever, it really creates a vibe and a tone for an album, which is what it seems like you were trying to do.
Tom has this beautiful wall of tambourines and I've done so much stuff in that room. It's like a very comfortable room. And Tom and I are both obsessed with like tambourines and shakers. And he has like 20 tambourines, and they frame the door of the studio. And usually when you're like doing overdubs, you kind of turn around, you're like, okay, which one of the 20 tambourine, and like there's the song Building a Cathedral, which is probably the song that could have become a band song. Mm-hmm. It's kind of got a little bit of drive to it. And like
that's almost the last song on the record, right? Or maybe it is.
It's the penultimate.
Second to last.
Yeah. I always put the second to last song as the last song. That's the closing scene of the movie, and then the last song is the closing credits. That's the way.
Right. I like that.
But Tom caught me looking at the tambourine wall, and he was like, "Don't do it." He's like, "We're not going to do it."
Yeah.
So there's not a single piece of percussion.
Admirable.
As guys who have been at it for a long time and who we have loud, high voices, I think we're both still like cranking, like with our singing too, which is like when you see like the last Led Zeppelin show or something at like Live Aid, and Robert Plant is like 30 and he's already like, I can't sing anymore. And you're like, oh man, yeah. He's like, how did we do it? I don't exactly know. Hydration? Like
I started losing my voice on tour like 15 years ago, like when we started doing shows again, or like touring regularly and putting out new records in like 2010. Started losing my voice, and I basically went to a voice teacher, and she gave me some exercises to do, and I've been doing them ever since, and knock on wood, I've pretty much have kept it since then. And I think that has allowed me to just sing more consistently, because like I think I went through like eras of, in the late 90s and like on Here's to Shutting Up, like trying to sing in different ways, basically trying to make the band quieter at times, being like, well, if I'm singing really quietly, then like we'll be quiet, but we never were. Like the drums, the bass, the guitars, everything was just as loud. And so there's like some awkward time periods where like I'm trying to sing in a different way, but the band is still kind of playing the same way. And then when we took like a break for like 8 years, by the time we came back, I mean, I'd been touring with Portastatic and doing some different things. But then when we made Majesty Shredding, I think I just kind of said, fuck it, to trying to sing a different way, and went back to how I was singing before, except I could do it better. Like, I'm not trying to like whisper. I'm not trying to like sing super quiet or high or imitate anyone else. I'm just going to like sing how I sing, but with a little more like age behind it or something like that,
Yeah, sing how I sing is and do how I do is generally how I approach almost everything now too. When you've made like a bunch of records and stuff, that it's like, I think it was like a comedian referred to it as ringing your bell. Like when you've been doing something a long time, just continue to ring your bell. It's not like repeating yourself or doing the same thing over and over again. Like when you have a large body of work, it's actually going to be totally varied, but it's a ringing of the bell, I guess. So
that's a good way to put it. I never heard that, and I think that's kind of what we've been doing since Majesty Shredding.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I can hear in the new record, which is like, I don't ever want to say call something a quote return to form, because it sort of implies that you lost
that you dropped off,
that you dropped off. It's not that, but it does. It gave me kind of a lot of feels like of super.
Oh, that's good.
Like I said, I'm a longtime fan, so it's like I'm already like nerding out just talking to you about it. But
well, I appreciate it, and I think that like part of taking an 8-year break, which not a lot of bands can do, and then still want to make records after that or whatever, was being able to just kind of like get some distance and think about like, well, like why are we doing this? And like, what are we good at? And what do people like about it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, of course, within that, like you said, like not trying to make the same record over and over, but just like playing to your strengths enough for it to feel like you, and then trying some things here and there to mix it up,
Yeah.
and just writing good songs. And so I think that, from a Fruit Bat standpoint, the new record is doing that. It's like, it's still your songs, it's your voice, but there's not a whole band around you. So it's different, but it's obviously still Fruit Bat songs.
Yeah. It's my most curveball of a record that I've done, but without being like a high concept curveball where it's like, whoa,
Right.
he did like a crazy ambient record or something
It's not the Todd Rundgren album where all the instruments are his voice sampled.
Yeah. Yes. That's going to be the next one. It's my voice sampled and MIDI, and then turned into MIDI. But no, I've done a few interviews on this, and like I sometimes come back to thinking about Bill Callahan a lot, who's like a big songwriting idol of mine, and who I think is like a person who like just keeps making killer records because of the aforementioned ringing of the bell, and he makes a lot of records too. And I always think like maybe it's like he'll make like a record, and maybe it's like the next one is like it's great. And maybe the next one isn't as good as the last one, but maybe the one after that will be. But what he does is he always writes his best one song on every record. I feel like he tops himself on every record with one song.
Yeah, that's enviable.
If that's just the goal, the Callahan standard, which is just like, just try and write the best song you've ever written on the next one or whatever.
So on Baby Man, what's that song for you?
Well, I don't know. Like I wouldn't say.
Or is that something that fans decide?
That's what fans decide, or what I decide later after I've sung it 500 times or whatever. Like what I mean is I try to do that with every single one.
Sure.
I feel like there's songwriters who are, not to get into baseball terminology, but like a power hitter in baseball, which is like they hit home runs, but often they strike out the most too because they're taking the most swings. Like I love a power hitter songwriter in that way, where you're like, some of the songs are like, I don't know about this one, or it's not like you dislike it, but maybe
it just kind of goes by. It
goes by, and then it's like the third song on the record, you're like, oh my God, this is like the best song of the last 10 years or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I'd like to maybe try to be like that, not just kind of like a consistent.
I'm glad that you said a third song on the record, though. Sometimes I think fourth song on the record is like cleanup spot is literally how I think of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of baseball.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you think, like, we'll put the best song first.
That's your speedy leadoff hitter. That's
right.
That gets on first base and can maybe steal second, which would be that's the second. Yeah. Wow. I've never really thought of this. Is really getting into it.
I do think like cleanup spot is like where to put maybe the best song, because it's rewarding people who've like gone that far. And then it's going to make them go the rest of the way, because it's like, okay, like if this record is this good, then I'm going to stay with this, which is all very antiquated thinking considering how people consume music now. But I'm too old to change how I think about records and sequencing and stuff like that.
Actually, my theory is we have cycled back to like a 1960s and 70s like notion of sequencing and singles and things like that. And we're kind of cycling back to like make a record every year now too. The way that you like, I mean, the Beatles.
Well, you are, but I mean, not everyone can do that.
But it's not frowned upon. I'm on a little bit of a tear, but it's not like when I was first starting to make records 25 years ago, like sort of my concerted effort of making records. It was kind of like I was in like the tail end of indie. I sort of like saw the little bit the end of indie rock world, which was like its own. As you well know, like it's kind of its own ethos that was really awesome. And then I was kind of like in on the sub pop boom, I guess, of the early 2000s, even though I wasn't one of the boom bands, but I was the opening act for those bands.
Sure. No, some great records. Yeah.
Yeah. But the notion then was like, you kind of would make a record and then you have to wait for like 2.5 years. And you would tour on that.
Yeah.
You would sort of do there was kind of like a really specific pattern. And nowadays it's not like that. And it's partly has to do with something gross like content or whatever, where it's like just churn stuff out.
That's always been very attractive to me in bands that just put stuff out when you're least expecting it. I always think about Unrest and Teen Beat Records were a big inspiration for us when we were starting. Just how Mark would just this flow of insanely good singles coming from Unrest, and then albums occasionally as well. But just like the singles just coming out, and just there were gems, And so I think that one thing that I think about as being in a band for so long and having fans that have like been with us the whole time, rewarding people with like a tour 7-inch or like a random cover that you're posting online, for Halloween or whatever. And just like a flow of stuff coming. So it doesn't feel like from our standpoint, or hopefully from their standpoint, that it's just that we are locked into some weird, rigid cycle of like hunkering down, making a record, putting it out, touring, going away for a couple of years. It's just more like, no, this is like a living, breathing like thing. You know what I mean? And it's fun. So we're doing it because it's fun, not just because like we need to make a record now. It's been a couple of years,
I totally agree. It's like keeping yourself stimulated and just be like, oh, I'm going to do this weird, cool thing in which, like I said, I sort of like as much as there's a lot to be cynical about with the current state of the music industry, in some ways I'm like, well, we don't really know yet. And it might be going in a good direction. I don't know. You could certainly wade into a very cynical discussion about it.
Yeah. Easy to be cynical. Yeah.
And there's certainly things to be cynical about, but where I'm like, I don't know, we could be cycling into something sort of interesting too right now as well. So, yeah.
I was thinking about this relationship between artists and fans, listening to the first song on your record, though I don't know if that's what it's about, but it's called Let You People Down. And I was wondering, like, is that about like Fruit Bats fans? Is that who You People is? Or is that like your friends or your family? Or like, what is that?
Well, it's sort of about matters of the heart, like personal matters of the heart, but also, yes, after it got recorded, I was like, this sort of preemptively also feels like a mission statement to like start the record and be like, let's see what you think about this.
I like that. I like that conversation between, like opening it with like a conversational thing like that.
It's a little like we're having this like moment with that song on TikTok and stuff, which is like this groovy song, and it's like really young people like it and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna latch onto this record, but maybe they will. I'm not feeling negative about it, but I'm like, I made it, and here it is.
I have a teenager son and a daughter who's 22, and they listen to music, some of which is like they love Fruit Bats. And I know that they're exposed to that through me, but also like our daughter has friends when she was in college that were just Fruit Bats fans, which I'm always like, well, like you came to this naturally. That's awesome. But also just stuff that I don't even know what it is that they listen to. Some of it is really stripped down. Some of it is like folk music, and some of it is not modern sounding per se. You know what I mean? So I think that for all the damage that I think that the internet and streaming has done to the music business and artists to some extent, I feel like the kids themselves are like open to a lot of stuff, and it's there if they want to find it.
That was exactly my thought. I was going to say that sort of relates to the like, yes, reasons to be cynical, but like in a way, the sort of, I can't imagine having access to any, like, I could certainly wax rhapsodic about you got to go talk to the cool record store clerk and who tells you about the fall or something like that. And that is cool. And those days are gone. Like that will, or that's not true. Someone might tell you about the fall at some point and go stream it. But I think I found that with Fruit Bats because we were in the indie rock world of the early 2000s. I don't think people didn't like us, who were fans of like Modest Mouse or something like that. It wasn't hitting with that because there was kind of more compartmentalized listening back then. That's
so interesting because like as an East Coast person, bands on Sub Pop and I think that I was always like, oh yeah, they're from the West Coast. They're on Sub Pop. They're from the West Coast. Of course, that's not really true. You know what I mean? Like Velocity Girl was on Sub Pop, whatever. But like I didn't have a concept of what you're describing as like if you were into Modest Mouse, like you weren't also into Fruit Bats. You know what I mean? Like to me, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like these bands are popular. Like everybody likes these bands,
Yeah, and also because you're a person of discerning taste who sort of like understands things. I think in general, the like I use Modest Mouse as an example because we toured opening for them like on our early tours, and it didn't go well. It was like it was ambivalent to hostile. What I would say would be the crowd reaction to it. But then every now and again, I'll literally meet someone who's like, "Yeah, I saw you open for Modest Mouse in 2002," and since
I love that.
I've been a fan of it. So yeah, there was like a smattering that maybe grew, but and I love Modest Mouse. That was like a very cool band to be being dragged around by back then. But
well, that's interesting because it's like that was an enviable opening slot, but then your experience was like these people are not down with what we're doing. And that can be a hard nightly ritual.
Oh, big time. I've been in a lot of opening slots that like didn't work out, but I think that's really good for you. Like,
sure.
Red Meat was the ultimate band that were the most despised opening act in all of rock music. They
really?
Yeah, they opened for Smashing Pumpkins on like the probably like Siamese Dream or so.
Oh my God, yes, like giant crowds,
and I think they opened for Beck on some stuff too. Did you ever do a crazy giant opening slot tour for anyone?
The closest that we probably came to that was we got asked to open for our friends Teenage Fanclub in England, though, on a tour when 13 was coming out.
So they were really popping off.
They were like, main stage at Reading or whatever festival, and then we were opening for them on all these dates and these big whatever Academy. I can't remember the names of the venues.
Yeah.
Just these giant rooms.
Yeah.
And literally, like, no one gave a shit about us, including anyone working on that in any of those rooms, like, promoters, anything. It was just like, here's £100. Here's some warm beer. Have fun. Of course, like, the band liked us, like you said. That's why they asked us to play with them, and we were friends. Had both been on Matador over here, and it's great to get to see them every night. The Posies were also on these gigs.
God, that's like the greatest bill I've ever heard in my life.
When a band gets that big, people are there to see them. And this is before people had phones they could look at. So they're just like blankly staring and talking or whatever they're doing, or just not even filing in yet kind of thing. And I remember like we had, I think, one good show on that tour, which was in Cardiff, Wales. And all the other nights just felt like banging your head a little bit against the wall. But you got to do it. And, the motto in our band is always, play the show, not the crowd. And so, like, if you can get into that mindset, then, like, you can have a good time in pretty much any situation.
Yeah. Well, that's like one of the greatest bills I've ever heard in my life. And those people didn't know what they were missing with that bill. But our bill was for those early 2000s tours. Some of them was Modest Mouse, Shins, Fruit Bats, triple bill.
Another great bill.
Pretty powerhouse. Like, we think about it, but like, was again, it was just people kind of waiting to see Isaac,
right.
So, which was like very culty it was both culty and huge, which is they were at an interesting nexus. Where it was like this culty, very strange band, but also like really on the cusp of stardom too. Before they had that radio hit in 2000.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but on the way there. Yeah. So that was an interesting thing to witness, but I've always wanted to do like a huge tour though. Like I'd be interested.
Yeah. I always was like, my dream, which will never happen, was to open for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but we try not to open too much anymore. But I'm like, I want to do like a big one at some point.
We did a tour opening for the Get Up Kids.
Nice.
Which it was like right before we stopped playing shows for 8 years. I don't think those things are related. They might be partially related. But we put out Here's to Shutting Up. That came out the week after 9/11. That was not a great time to be on tour yet. We toured the world. And then we did like a singles comp and did like a little more touring. And Get Up Kids asked us to tour opening for them. And it was not like a stadium shows, but it was like big clubs, and they're super popular and their fans are like hardcore, But again, hardcore and young to the point where they're like, who are these old people? We were 35. Who are these old people that are opening for my favorite band? You know what I mean? And so I think, like you said, there's probably some people who saw us on that tour that are still fans, but it was like kind of hard every night. I think John Worster once described those kinds of gigs as like playing to a painting of children. But I think it was good to do, and it was kind of them to ask. And we've certainly asked bands to open for us that I think they probably, like when we had LaBradford opening for us on some shows, and they're like this ambient band, and in Philadelphia at the Trocadero, people were throwing batteries at them.
Oh,
I'm sure that they were just going like, why did we agree to do this again?
I think audiences are a little more open-eared now in general.
I think you're right. You're right. And one more comment on those kinds of shows. I remember thinking, I don't want to do this kind of show. When I saw Sonic Youth open for Neil Young and Crazy Horse on that tour that he did, where they opened, it was Sonic Youth and Social Distortion. Social Distortion went on before the doors opened in the arena. It was in the basketball arena here at UNC. And then like Sonic Youth went on, and they're just doing a great Sonic Youth set to Neil Young fans, you know what I mean? Which I'm sure some were like curious, but for the most part, that's a brutal slot.
Was that, what year was that?
That was, I assume that it was the tour that Neil Young's record was like with Keep on Rockin' in the Free World.
Oh, right. Okay. I saw Neil on tour maybe a couple years after that, where he had Booker T and the MGs as his band.
Oh, yeah.
And the opening acts were Soundgarden and Blind Melon.
Wow. That's amazing.
And it was great. Like,
I bet.
It was all great. And I was there for Neil, but I liked Soundgarden, and I knew the hit of Blind Melon, who had a massive hit at the time.
Yeah.
And it was actually like a killer bill.
Neil's pretty interesting with who he brings along, I guess.
I would open for Neil.
Well, okay, let's get back to Baby Man for a minute. It's a very stripped down record. It's very beautiful. It's very sad from someone who doesn't really even know much about it, listening to it. And I'm not just talking about the song that's about your dog Pinto, which is an amazing song, very tear-jerking. But did you set out to make this kind of record, like when you started, where you're like, I'm going to make a stripped-down record? Or did you just start writing a couple songs and then go, like this is lending itself towards a certain kind of presentation?
This was supposed to be like a midterm project, like a sort of maybe a slightly more casual sort of.
That's right. When you first brought it up, it was like, Eric's gonna make a record of some covers and maybe a couple originals.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I think I kind of started working on the originals, and then I literally was like just talking to Tom about like borrowing a microphone from him. And then we ended up chatting on the phone for like an hour. And at the end, I was just like, you're hired. And then I was like, okay, well, this has to be kind of serious because Tom's doing it now. So this is not just going to be sort of me in the morning in my guest bedroom working on this. So, and then it kind of came to like, I was like, I kind of need songs, but then we got started. And I don't have any sort of parameter mandate or anything, but where I ended up just being like, oh, I'm just going to write this and make this record all at the same time. So that's all kind of like 10 days in my life, about give or take.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I wrote everything at the same time, and I'm trying to like lean into some immediacy.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, I think that I've always done that a little bit when writing demos, like just kind of keep it in the form that it first appears. I mean, I'll change words or whatever, but like not fuss with stuff too much. But knowing that about this record, I still think it's an incredible feat to write and record this record in 10 days. In other words, one might hear this and go like, oh, he's been like writing these songs for the last 9 months and now he just goes and records it in a weekend or whatever. But it's not like that.
No, I have become more prolific lately. Are you prolific? Do you like write a lot, or like what was the process on Songs in the Key of Yikes, which was like what, like how long was that writing process?
I write a lot when I get into a writing mode. I'll write a lot of songs and make a lot of demos because it's fun. Like once you get going, it's like, oh, this is like the mic set up already. Like, you know what I mean? Like the Pro Tools session set up, just like start a blank session and just like, and start going. And once I start doing it, then I want to hear them. I want to hear the songs. So I try to like finish the demos, you know what I mean? I'll even add drums and stuff like that, just because I want to be able to hear like, does this work? Like, how's it going to be? You know what I mean? When actually like a real drummer's playing on it, Laura King, or like when Jim Wilbur's writing his parts, like I want to get it somewhere. I probably wrote 20 songs for the record and then send around the demos to Jim and Laura Balance and Laura King. And then as people start listening, like sometimes I'll get feedback like this, what the fuck is up with this song? This is dumb. Or like,
are you good with feedback? Are you good at hearing that, or do you?
I'm okay. I'm okay to hear it, but I'm also good at arguing about it. When I get it, no, you don't understand. We need to have this kind of song because it's going to go after this other kind of song. I'll argue it.
It's like a constitutional monarchy. It sounds like you sort of have there's some checks and balances, and you're the king.
I try not to be the king, but someone has to kind of like drive it forward. You know what I mean? Like someone has to provide the momentum. So I think I'm doing that. And then when you write 20 songs, it's fine to get this feedback because you're like, we're not going to record 20 songs anyway. Like you have to listen to stuff for a while until you really know, like, okay, like I thought that seemed like a great idea that day I wrote it, but you're right. Like that's not going to be on this record. And so I think it's good for everyone to have it and think about it and ruminate on it. And then like come to some agreements about what's going to work. And then, we end up recording songs that like maybe I wouldn't have chosen to be on the record, but other people are like, no, like we got to do that one.
That's cool.
Or vice versa. And so all the songs were written like pretty quickly. And it just took us a while to record because of everyone's schedules and our touring schedule. Like we were recording maybe like 3 or 4 songs at a time. And what would happen is like, we'd get in the studio, we'd have like 2 or 3 days booked at this place called Sonark near here. And we'd record the songs that we learned. And then we'd have like an extra day. And then we'd like record like a cover or something like that. Like, let's record something for a B-side. So like we had some extra stuff, which is always fun to me. Like, again, embracing immediacy. For instance, the first song on the record, the called Is It Making You Feel Something, is the last song that I wrote because I felt like I needed one more song on the record. But the demo is like half speed. It's like a grunge kind of sounding song. And then Laura Balance was like, we need some more songs that sound like the Buzzcocks on this record. And then I was like, well, let's just try playing the song like double speed. And then that's what we did. And then that's the version that's on there. So like we recorded both versions, but the fast one is the one that's on the record. And, I like that. I think that some of the energy on this record for sure is in response to the last record having to be made in lockdown, which was Wild Loneliness. It's a very acoustic sounding record. And the new one is more like, can't wait to make it like another punk rock record, But also having it be the first album that Laura King's playing drums on is like a new energy, which is fantastic.
It does kind of feel like an unleashing of sorts. That it did like it had that was kind of like my next question, but you answered it. Whereas like it does have like a punk rock unleashing vibe compared to the last couple. I also was gonna say like I've listened to you for a long time, but like I really like Jim's really like singing with his guitar. I realized that like the sound of Superchunk for me is like you're singing, but then he's like plays these guitar parts that are kind of like singing, like you're duetting or something like that.
Yeah.
But that sort of like dawned on me on this one. And I was like, oh, that's the sound of that band. That's like pretty unique, I think. How he plays.
Jim's guitar parts are great. Yeah. And it will actually turn into sometimes like he'll play a thing and then I'll start singing that. I'll be like, oh, well, I should sing that part also in this other part of the song or whatever. Like I'll take some of his guitar lines and then sing them, like it's like just, oh, well, that melody just like fits in this song now. And Laura King can sing as well. And so her vocals on the record, as well as like we have some other guests on there. Her vocals are great. And I love hearing that and being able to like hear her singing them live too.
I think I've seen you only once with her and she was amazing.
She's awesome. We have practice today. We're trying to get ready for the tour.
Nice. Yeah. Where do you go? Where's your first date?
Our first show's in Richmond. And then we come back to North Carolina and play the Hopscotch Festival, which is pretty awesome. I can't remember if you've played Hopscotch before. It's a good one.
I never have. I want to.
And then next week we start in DC at the Black Cat, which is classic.
I opened for you at the Black Cat in DC in like 2001 with Caliphone.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Caliphone did that show. Was it only that one show?
It was only that one show.
Okay.
Which I was so excited and I wished it was more, but like, yeah, it would have been 2001 or maybe, no, it would have been 2001, either 2000 or 2001.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. I have like a a spreadsheet where I'm trying to catalog all the shows we've ever played. It's not easy,
No, I'm trying to too. It's a lot.
but that's a good way for me to be able to look that up. Because if I just look up Superchunk Black Cat, like a million shows come up because we played there so many times. Where's your first show?
It's a Bonnie Light Horseman tour, and our first show is in Evanston, Illinois.
Nice. At the Space?
No, it's the Evanston Folk Festival. So it's like the
cool.
music festival in Evanston.
Nice.
It's the people from Space put it on.
So you're touring before your solo tour for Fruit Bats.
Yeah.
You're doing some Bonnie shows. And do you rehearse in advance of that?
No, like we've been touring so much with the band that we just kind of are like, we just sort of drop in at this point. But this is the last like Bonnie tour for a while. Like this is kind of the last of the album cycle, which is we've been going for like about a year. And then Baby Man tour in October.
And so that's just going to be you?
Yeah.
On stage?
Yes.
And will you practice by yourself to get ready for that?
Yeah, and I did some solo dates the summer opening for this guy Trevor Hall, and so I have like a little bit of a concept going.
I've seen you solo before, but it sounds like this is more of, like you said, more of a concept.
This is a concept, and I don't even know what it is quite yet, and I'm a little scared, but I'm also like whatever. And then I just made a follow-up record, as you may know, to Baby Man with my band, and it's like a back to a rollicking.
Yeah, I haven't even heard it yet.
I'll send you some roughs. So.
I'm excited to hear it. I was thinking about like how you get ready for a solo tour like for Baby Man, because there's these songs on the record that are just you and piano.
Yeah,
and like that's scary because if you're playing guitar and like whatever, like you hit a wrong note, like you can kind of cover that up. But if you're playing piano and you hit a wrong note, man. And I don't even know how you prepare for that.
It's the Eno oblique strategy of honor thy mistake as a hidden intention.
That's a good one.
Do you remember that band Rex?
Yeah.
Like New Brooklyn, like slowcore band?
Yeah.
My friend Phil Spirito, the bassist of that band, he said, if you ever hit a wrong note, hit it again, hit it wrong again the next time through, which is kind of like the same thing as that Eno oblique strategy of like, it's just like, I'm meant to do that.
I've done that plenty. I got called out for that one time when we were making Come Pick Me Up in Chicago, and Jim O'Rourke was producing that. And we had horn players in, including our old friend Jeb Bishop, who plays trombone. And he was, he's also a great guitar player. He's from North Carolina, but he was living in Chicago at the time. And they were in there to do some horns. And then he was listening to like something we had just recorded, and like he heard the guitar solo, and he's like, did you do that on purpose? Like, because so clearly I had like hit a weird note and then just like hit it again to make it sound like it was on purpose. And he just spotted that immediately.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I don't know yet. I'm like, I do have to probably practice the piano stuff. We had an idea of like trying to just play venues that had pianos too, where I can play a real piano. But then not every single one does. So I haven't figured this out yet.
But guitar is like your first instrument, or did you play piano before that?
I don't even have a first instrument. Like I probably played piano by like messing around at my grandma. My grandma had a piano.
Yeah.
I would like mess around, but I don't really think I was playing. I never took lessons. And the only reason I learned how to play guitar was that my friends in high school wanted me to be the lead singer of their band, but I was too scared to just stand there.
Yeah, that's tough.
Like I was not going to be some kinetic, Jim Morrison kind of person, like not yet. I actually kind of enjoy doing that now, but like,
well, now you've got the leather pants and everything.
I've got the leather pants and the no. So I sort of forced myself to learn guitar in order to be in a band.
Well, one thing I love about the piano songs on the record is the minimal approach, because then when something happens, like a little flourish or something, like you really notice it and it feels like, oh, that's like its own part.
That was on purpose. And to where even also the minimalism, where even if just because there is like some bass synth and stuff on the record, and I was like, I want like when the chorus comes in and like a bass synth hits like one note, that it like collapses your sternum, you
like, feel it.
Yeah. Like whereas like if you go in full bore, you might not like notice it as much.
Well, it's a beautiful record, and I'm psyched to see you play the songs live. Are you going to play obviously like other Fruit Bat songs too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's my first time doing an evening with too. So it's like it's 90 minutes, no opener. Like you just come in and
I like that.
Yeah, I play at 8:00 sharp. And
dang, that's good.
we're out of there at 9:30.
Yeah, good plan.
Get a late dinner.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on the record.
You too.
I'm sorry about Pinto.
I know. I am too. But he lives on. He lives on.
Yeah,
in
he does.
song. So
He does.
I'm gonna come in. I think you're coming to LA too on your tour.
Yeah, we're gonna be at the Terragram.
I love the Terragram. I saw you last time at the Terragram.
That's a fun room.
Yeah, and I think I'm home, so I'll be there.
Oh, great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And West Coast shows are with Case Oates from Chicago,
Of course.
who are fantastic.
Yeah, who I met at Newport this year. So
Oh, that's right. They were up there. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, and I know Spencer a little bit through various friends and things.
Yeah, well, those West Coast dates will be really fun with that.
Yeah, amazing. All right, that's exciting.
Well, it's great to see you, and it's good to have an excuse to just hang out and chat.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll chat more about all the other things at some point. But I
Yeah.
love your new record.
Thanks, man.
Like I said, I could fanboy out for another 45 minutes, but I won't.
I appreciate you listening to it.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse Podcast, and thanks to McCaughan and Eric D. Johnson for chatting. If you liked what you heard, please follow Talkhouse on your favorite podcasting platform and check out all the great stuff in our podcast network. This episode was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.